Hello and welcome everyone. Welcome to the fourth day of winter interview preparation. So, if you are joining for the first time, let me give you a quick idea what this winter interview preparation is all about. So, basically, winter interview preparation is all about helping you and boosting up your knowledge regarding the interview and all the experiences. So basically, this winter interview preparation will be taken by industry experts and mentors. So all the different subjects like data science and ML, project building from scratch, and gate, and all those important subjects are going to be covered. So there will be sessions provided by the industry experts and mentors on each and every mentioned date. So basically, the first session mentioned over here is going to be public on YouTube, and the next session will be exclusively taken on Zoom. Those of you who have enrolled in this session, they will get the access, they will be allowed to visit the session on the Zoom platform as well. And one more bonus session will be taken by Sandeep sir himself. So that session is going to be an interactive session. You can ask your own doubts, and Sandeep sir will solve your all kind of queries. So now today's session is all about mock interview over low level design. So in today's session, our industry expert Arsh Goyal, who is a senior software engineer at Samsung, is going to take the session. So basically, today's session is going to be around low level design of a ride sharing app by an upcoming Uber software engineer. So now I would like to hand over to Arsh.
Hi everyone. I hope I am audible. Thank you so much, Jay, for a very great introduction. We'll be grateful to all of you for who have joined here. So today I have with me Rajan Jaiswal, with whom we'll be having a mock interview on low-level design. If I talk about low-level design, so nowadays many of the companies have started preferring to ask questions based upon low-level design, not very high level, like in low level also. Basically, if I talk about object oriented design, right, you talk about classes, you talk about functions, you talk about objects, how to build classes based upon a given scenario. So even if you're comfortable with object oriented programming, you can give a try to any of the questions that is based upon low level design. So in today's session also, this is going to be a very beginner level question that I've chosen, so in which we'll be talking about how somebody who has no background, like who is very new to low level design, approaches a question that comes into being. He's aware of, let's say, classes, he's aware of objects, but he's not exactly aware of design. I'm putting up him up in a situation where he'll be solving a problem of a low level design. We'll be building some classes. You'll get to know, you'll get to experience this entire mock interview. It will tell you more about how you should approach such problems when you are given these kind of problems in an interview. Along with that, you will also get a chance to understand how to answer a particular question in a structured format, in a step format, right? So in this particular session, we have with us Rajan Jaiswal, who is going to give this interview for low level design. So would want Rajan to briefly introduce yourself.
Yeah, thank you, Harsh. So I'm Rajan. I'm currently a final year undergraduate from National Institute of Technology, Karnataka, and also an upcoming software engineer at Uber. So today we will be, going through this session of system design, especially low-level system design, and we will be talking about the class diagrams with the methods, relations between classes, and other, specifications for low-level design that are usually asked in software interviews, right? So yes, Arsh, we can move forward.
Yeah. So I'm like, we are officially going to start the interview in a way that you will actually see the interview in the format. So hey Rajan, can we have a brief introduction of yours? You can tell about your college you are from, what all interests you have, and how would you proceed.
Hello, Arsh, am I
Yeah.
audible?
Yes, you're audible, Rajan.
Okay. So I just gave my introduction. Like, I'm not sure if you get it.
Okay, so I just want to know more about you. Like, what are your interests? Let's say if you talk about in terms of tech, so which all technologies have you explored, and how have you been in those through your interview experiences and everything?
Sure, sure. So I recently did my internship as a full stack software engineer at Visa INC this summer in Bangalore. And my project was basically related to cloud infrastructure. And the technologies that we used over there was web development technologies like Angular and TypeScript for the front end, and Java and Spring Boot for the back end. So yeah, those were some of the tech stacks that I recently used. Um, yeah, so apart from that, I sat for my placements during my placement season in my college, and I got the opportunity to be with an interview with Uber. And yeah, so at that time also I had a system design round. And yeah, so I guess I
So
prepared for.
if we talk about system design, so how would you rate yourself on a scale of 10 in low level design, or like have you experienced such questions? So yeah.
Sure. So yeah, as I mentioned, I had the chance to give a system design interview with Uber, and yeah, it was an amazing experience. And yeah, I would say I would rate myself as 7 or maybe 7.5 out of 10 as a low level, system designer. And yes.
Yeah. So let's start with the actual process. We'll be starting up with the, like, I'll be giving you a question on a document. I'll explain you the question from my point of view, like what exactly I'm expecting out of that question. Then you can go ahead and clarify whatsoever things are there in your mind, so that we are on the same page and we can take this interview smoothly. Along with that, side by side, I'll be noting down some of the feedbacks that I feel would have made this interview better, right? uh, Let me just share my screen so that I can present the question, right?
Yeah, sure.
Let me know if my screen becomes visible. Yeah. So, Rajan, the question goes like you have been placed in Uber, so it's something related to Uber, might be a use case that Uber is solving. So you need to give me a low level design of a ride sharing application. When I say ride sharing application, you will have both the perspectives. You'll have drivers also, you'll have riders also. Where drivers can offer rides, let's say there are n number of drivers who can offer rides. For each ride, there'll be three specific coordinates or data points. That is origin of the ride, from where the ride starts, destination of that ride, where that ride ends, and the number of seats that can be offered, right? And similarly, a rider, let's say I want to book a cab, I tell that him the pickup point, I tell him the drop point, and I tell him how many number of people would be going. So this is the basic question. Apart from that, what is expected to be taken as input? You should take two or more, the program should take as input two or more drivers and a set of riders requesting rides. So this is the scenario that I want you to visualize. There can be multiple rides that can happen simultaneously. So there's an algorithm that runs behind to calculate the amount of, like, the total amount charged for a given ride based upon the based upon the distance and number of seats. Like if you have two or more people, if you have one person, so how the rate would be calculated? So it's number of kilometers that you will go through multiplied by a number of seats, that and multiplied by 0.75, that is the amount charge. It is for somebody if you're sharing rides with someone, like if you're already moving in and in between your ride somebody wants to join you, right?
Okay.
So he books that ride. For him or her, it would be 0.75 of the total amount. Whereas let's say if you go on a ride from your point to the end point without anyone sharing it, so then it would be total number of kilometers into amount charged per kilometer. So this is the basic overview of question. So like, did you get the question first of all?
Yeah, so it's a ride-sharing application where our major, objects are riders as well as the cabs or the drivers that you can consider, right? And they will be taking trips in from a source, from an origin to a destination. And yeah, so basically, a cab can have multiple riders, and they can join in between the trips.
Yeah.
And we also have an algorithm to calculate the bill amount. Basically, that is the ride amount, right? Okay.
Yeah. So this is the basic scenario that is presented in front of you. What
Okay.
I expect from this question is you should have certain functionalities that would be able to help us design this particular system, right? So what I expect out of this is there should be a function that could help drivers to register or a cab to register, that could help a rider. Let's say if I am booking a ride, so I can register, I can book a ride, I can create a ride. When I say book and create a ride, so creating a ride is basically, let's say I am initiating the ride from my place. Whereas booking a ride is, let's say if somebody from in between joins me for a ride. So that is booking a ride. And creating a ride is, let's say the first person who creates that ride is it's creating a ride. Then a function that generates bill based upon the calculation that we have done above, based upon that algorithm. You also need to check the validity of an ongoing ride for a new rider and update the ride status. At the end, you need to fetch revenue of all the rides taken by the driver or cab on an individual day. Let's say for this particular day, I have had 10 rides. So what's the total money that I would have earned in that particular day? So these are the functionalities. Overall, I would feel like I would be satisfied if these functionalities are performed. And how can you as a software engineer would able to write code from scratch for these functionalities? Consider me as somebody who is not knowing anything, and you just need to explain it from the very beginning, so that even a person who is very new to designing systems can understand and can get what you're trying to say.
Okay, cool. Um, so okay, I have few questions. Um,
Yeah.
so like in the algorithm that you mentioned, right? The
Yeah.
right amount calculation algorithm.
Hmm.
So you mentioned amount charged per kilometers, right?
Yeah.
So I'm assuming, or you can give me some amount for that, per kilometer charge, right?
So you can assume it as per your comfortability. You can let me know what is your assumption. Let's say we charge rupees 10 per kilometer to make things
Okay,
easier.
sure, sure. Okay, Ash, I don't have edit access to this document. Can you please?
Okay, okay, just a minute. Let me know if you have the edit access now.
Um, Not yet. Let me reload this. Okay. Yeah, I have now.
So I just want to understand how would you like if a question is presented in front of you, how would you approach such a problem?
Okay, so first of all, I would, clarify the problem as much as I need by asking, relevant questions, and then gather complete information. And yeah, so once I've gathered all the, complete all the required information, I will just start with the basic features. And yeah, so LLD is very close to object-oriented programming. So I will start, defining the core classes, or you can say objects that are required, and then that is one more thing is to establish the relationships between the objects that will create, and right, and by basically by observing the interactions among the classes and the objects. So once we are done with that, we will try to add the required
Yeah,
functions.
we can start with the actual interview, Rajan.
Okay, sure. Yeah, so I will list the assumptions that I will be taking for this problem, right? Um, yeah, so as you said, that amount charged per kilometer, we are taking that as 10 rupees per kilometer, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. And so, like, what about the map? I mean, the map of the wherever the ride will take place, right? So, is it
You
like a is it like a 2D plane, or something?
so you can consider it as a straight line, and locations, like you can say these are non-negative integers on those axes.
Okay. Okay. So let's take the x-axis as the path, and so basically the drivers or the cabs can only move along the x-axis, right, from one point to other.
This is the assumption that we are taking in.
Okay, okay. And okay, so basically, if we're taking the x-axis as the path, then I guess the coordinates will be, the address of different locations, right? The source and destination that we'll be taking over here. So
Yeah.
we'll be taking numeric integers, and for the simplicity, I'll take the map from 0 to, let's say, 100. Okay, that is our range, and all the locations will be between those, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So the program should take two or more drivers and a set of riders requesting rides, and multiple rides can happen simultaneously. Okay. Okay. So these are the functions that we need to create. Okay. And I'm also assuming all values, the source destination, are in integers, as I
Yeah.
mentioned, between 0 to 100. And yeah, so since this is a straight line, okay, so the cap can only move either in the positive x direction or the negative x direction. It means basically there's only two directions that any cap can move, right?
Yeah.
Okay, and yeah, and you also mentioned, okay, so talking about the right amount calculation, if there are more than or equal to two riders, then this is the algorithm that we'll be using to calculate the right amount.
Yeah.
So, one question: is it like both the riders will book the ride at the same time, or they can join in between the trip?
Uh, so yeah, as I already clarified, anyone can join the trip from in between, but the condition is their end destination should be same.
Okay. So
They should be
let's
going to
let's
the same place.
okay. So let's say there's this map from let's say 1 to 10, and then 20. Let's say this is the straight line. Okay, and let's say there is a rider A which starts from 1, and then he wants to go to, let's say, 20. Okay,
Hmm.
so this is the destination,
Yeah.
and there is one more rider B who wants to go to the same destination, that is 20, right?
Yeah.
But that rider, the source of that rider is from, let's say, B,
Yeah.
and he wants to go to the same destination, right? um, so okay, so in this case, how will the rider B will add, I mean, to this trip? uh, like what are the conditions, like, so if it's like there's a address, let's say point 0.5, or let's say this is 5, there's an address at 1 as well. So if B is at 1, can B join the trip?
If B is at
1, let's say here is one more address as 1, and A started from 5, right? um, B started from 10, but let's say there is one more rider called C that starts from 1. So can he join this trip?
no. So as per our conditions, the person joining the ride should be in between the sources and the destination. So this
Okay,
case we are not going to take.
okay, okay. So let's say if A starts the trip, anyone whose source is between A's source and the final destination can join this trip.
Yeah.
Okay. And okay, since we okay, so I'm assuming we don't have a timer here going on. There will be states for this cab that will be moving from any source to any destination, and the status of the cab, it will be updated by the by the driver or the cab itself, right? So
Yeah. Let's say if the driver wants to uh, tell ki whether the cab is ongoing or whether the cab has ended. So you can like the driver can update on his own.
okay, got it.
So this is the
uh,
assumption that we're taking.
Okay. Okay, so basically the driver will update the status of the trip, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay, I'll add here. Uh, okay. So, okay, talking about the status of the cab, it can either be an ongoing trip that is going on, or it has already ended, right? So,
Yeah.
and
So the,
right now I can see two status for any trip, whether if it's ongoing or it has ended, right? And
yes.
okay, so for any trip, there will be few sets of riders and a cab, right? And a source and a destination.
Yeah.
So
So you can,
since yeah, okay, so we have a since we have a limited number of drivers or cabs. Once a cab or a driver is associated with a trip, the driver cannot, I guess, he cannot associate with
he's
any other
blocked.
trip, right?
He's
He's
blocked.
blocked.
Yeah.
Okay, okay, cool. Um, okay. Um, okay, so basically we have to design these functions. We have to register a cab or a driver. We have to register a rider. Okay, so only the riders can book a ride, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
And okay, so what is this create a ride function?
So create a ride function is basically how, let's say if I want to I was telling you the difference between create a ride or book a ride. So create a function is create a ride is a function that will basically initiate your ride, right? Let's say I am at the source, person A is at 5, so 5 is the source. So if I want to book a cab to the destination 20, so I'll be creating a ride. So the ride that is created by the first person or the person at source is the, like, basically create a ride function.
Okay.
Maybe if you need some time to understand and structure it well, you can take it up, or we can discuss.
Okay. Okay. So I'm assuming each of the rider will be exposed to a function to book a ride, and the system will decide if the rider can be associated with an ongoing trip, or the system needs to create a new ride.
Yeah, true.
Okay. Okay. And the bill will be generated at the probably at the end of the trip for
Yes.
all the riders that are there in the trip, basically in the cap, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, and checking the validity of an ongoing ride for a new rider and updating the status. And at the end, we have to fetch the revenue of all the rides taken by a cab. Okay, so I'll start, creating some of the objects that I need. Um, so should I start from the next page or here itself?
As per your convenience, let me know.
Okay.
You can start
I'll
it from
start.
here.
Okay, I'll start from here itself. Okay. First of all, we'll have the, okay, I'm not, uh, writing in any specific language. I'm just writing the pseudocode basically over here. Um, okay, so first of all, we'll have a ride sharing app. That will be our main class. And
Okay.
yeah, so we'll have some uh, okay, we'll have some objects over here itself, but okay, so any any functions that will be called from this for this object, that is ride sharing app. So yeah, every time there will there the any user will create a instance or an or ongoing instance for this ride sharing app, and then the user can register a driver or a cab. User can register a rider, and then all these functions over here. So okay, yeah, that's there. And then we have a rider. So I'm creating a rider object. um, we have let's call it cab over here. and we'll have trips. So let's just call this trip itself.
So what do these individual functions mean? This rider, cab, and trip.
Okay, so basically these are objects. There is a rider object, there is a cab object, and there is a trip object. So these objects, each of these objects will have a set of features and functions defined to them. So just let's say, for example, taking a rider. To identify a rider as unique, I would give the rider a unique ID. So I'll call this ID, right? And each of the rider will have a source and the destination, I guess. Yeah. So each of the rider will have a source, basically the origin and the destination. And yeah, so okay, since we are taking the origin and the destination as numeric integers, so I'll use int. Let's call this origin, or let's just call this source, and destination. What else do we need for a rider? Um,
Um, Basically, these are the data points.
yeah,
If you feel that you are missing something, you can let me. matlab, It's basically the ID as well as source and destination. I think majorly this should be covered.
okay, okay. And for a cab, first of all, the cab will have ID as well. Um and okay, so cab will have ID, and what else? Okay, so Um, okay, so first of all, yeah, each of the cab will have a set of seats, right? So I'll give int. Let's call this as something like seat count, right? And also, if the cab is an in an ongoing trip, then
Hmm.
there might be a limited set of seats that are left, right? Not all seats are available, so we need to track that as well. Or we can also add that in the trip itself. Okay, let's add it here itself. So
So you
yeah, so let's call that seats left or remaining, something like that. And
So seat
okay,
left means when you're saying seat left, so this means ki let's say if I have booked a single ride from a source and there are two more
okay,
seats available, so that is what would be stored in seat left, is it?
yeah. So let's say if we have, let's say, four seats in the cab, then uh, and two passengers are already traveling, then we only have two seats left,
Got it.
right? Um, and okay, and we'll also have the status of the cab. If the cab is if the cab is free, I mean, any other trip can can be associated with that cab, or uh, it's already going with a trip. So I'll need cab status as basically two status as of now. Either it's it's
Idle
ongoing,
or
I guess. Yeah, it's idle, or it's already busy, or engaged, right?
Hmm.
um, okay, so we can create enum for that. um, let's create an enum, like status. We need a status for trip as well, so I'll name it something like cab status.
Yeah.
And yeah, so there will be two as of now. It's either idle or it's engaged, right? Okay, yeah. So over here, I'll just move to this next page. It's easier to read. Okay, I'm on the next page, Harsh. uh, okay, yeah, so now,
Just yeah, you're here.
okay,
Cool.
uh, now we can have the status, cab status, basically. Um, okay, what else do we need? The source and the destination. I guess the source and the destination will be for our trip, so we don't need to add those in the cap. Okay, so for the trip, um, of course, first of all, we'll have an ID associated with that trip, and what else? Yeah, of course, the source and the destination. So since we are taking integer as the source and the destination, we'll take int source and int destination. Okay, okay, and okay, we need a cab associated with that trip, so we'll have a cab which we just created above. So
Yeah.
and yeah, so cab can have multiple seats, and so there will be multiple riders that can be associated with a trip, right?
Yeah.
So we basically need an array, or list of um, those riders, right? So I'll just create something like vector, maybe vector of riders, and these are the riders that will be associated with that trip, right? uh okay, and what else do we need for a trip? um okay, okay, we also need, okay, yeah, so we already have a cab status. Yeah, so there will be a trip status as well if the trip is ongoing or it has already been completed, which will be updated by the user, right?
Yeah.
So
So it can, it's
um
again, it can be either idle or it's ongoing.
okay. Idle trip. What do you
Trip,
mean by
trip,
idle?
trip ended,
Ended.
trip
Okay.
ended or yeah,
Okay. Okay. Okay.
something of that.
So the trip
Mm.
will be ongoing, or will already has been ended. So I'll
Hmm.
create an email for that as well. Uh, so this will be trip status, and yeah. Okay. So and it's either ongoing or it has ended. So I'll just use this trip status over here. Uh, okay, adding the sorry, status. Okay, we have the trip status as well. Um, okay, we have the rider, we have a cab, we have the trips. Okay, and let's look over the question. What else? Okay, rider, cab, trips, and we also need to calculate the ride amount, right?
Yeah. It was one of the
So
functions expected.
okay, okay. So I'll create one, one more object as the amount, or just let's call it bill. Okay. Uh,
Hmm.
so we'll have a bill object, and so mm, okay. So what does bill? Okay, so let's say for an ongoing trip, we have more than one rider. So the bill will be generated for each of the riders separately, or will it be a combined bill?
So it will be generated for each of the riders separately.
Okay. Okay, so it will be separate. So um, okay, so we'll have something like the the rider. So each bill will be associated with a specific
Particular
rider.
rider. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So we'll use the rider ID,
Hmm.
uh, and yeah, and what else? And okay, so we also need a trip ID. So string trip ID, And then what else? Do we need a cab ID? No, we all, because the cab is already associated with the trip,
So
so
either
we don't need that, I guess. And uh, okay, and we also need the basically of course the amount for that trip, amount of the bill basically. Okay, okay, this is the bill object that will be generated. Um, yeah, that's it. Any other objects that we may need?
like as per the given functions, if you feel like we have covered everything, or if you need to assume some more objects, you can let me know. Matlab, I need the functionalities to be complete, basically.
Okay. Mm, so we have a driver or a cab, we have a rider, we have a ride or a trip, we have a bill, and ride status, that's trip status, and then revenue is again the collection of all the bills. Okay. Uh, okay, I guess we can start with our main class. So yeah, so we'll have okay. So first of all, we'll need to register a cab, and then also we need to register a rider, right? So
Yeah.
I'll create a function. So since this will be accessed, this should be available, exposed publicly, because the user can add new riders, and user can also add. User should be able to add new uh, um, cabs as well, right? So I'll just make this public, and yeah, there's no return type for this, and then this is for register um, cab, something like this. Okay, and what else do we need? We also need to register the riders as well, right?
Yeah.
And that should also be publicly available. So register rider, and what else? Uh, so we also need to book a ride, okay, and create a ride. Uh, okay, I'll move to the next page. Okay, so users can also book a ride. So there's no return type for this. So book ride, and okay, so there's one function as create a ride, and I'm okay. So since the create a ride function, the system will create a new ride if the new user tries to book a ride. So uh, that should be private. That should not be accessible outside this class. So I'll make it private, and yeah, this should be create ride, something like this, and okay. Okay, and we have a function for generating the bill. So, and this should be available publicly. So I'll add. So, okay, so this function should return the. So is like is generate bill function returning the bill amount, or it's just generating the bill.
Yeah, you can like it should generate the bill amount. That's what I need
Okay, so it should just generate the bill amount, right?
yeah,
Okay.
to
Um,
keep things simpler.
okay, so generate bill, and okay, any other function? Okay, checking the validity of an ongoing ride for a new rider. Okay, so this function, number six function, this is for, I guess, when the user tries to book a ride. At that time, we have to check the validity, right? If the user can be added to an already existing ride, or The system should create a new ride, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so that should be private. Um, so check something like trip validity, something like this, and okay, update the uh, okay. So who will update the ride status?
So it's the driver who will update the ride status.
Okay, the driver will update the ride status, so that should be available. Okay, uh, so I'm creating this public and update trip status and okay, and then basically fetch revenue of all the rides taken by a driver. So that should be public. And fetching the revenue, I guess this function should return the total revenue that is generated by a cab driver, right? So I will
Yeah.
make int as a return type and okay, so I'll fetch total revenue.
So it can be a per day revenue.
Uh, it can be a per day revenue or I guess since we don't have a timeline, it should it can be the total revenue up till now, up till
Hmm.
this function is called, because we don't have a timer
Yeah.
going on, right?
Got it.
Okay, so yeah, okay, so yeah, for registering a cab, um, what do we need? Okay, so registering a cab has a string id, seat count. Okay, so we'll take the id as an input, um, and then we'll have the seat count and what else, I guess that's it we need. uh, okay, uh, yeah, yeah, those are the two things that we need. So I'll create a new object for the cab, let's say something like cab, and I'll associate the id. So cab.id will be this id, and cab okay, seat count will be this seat count, and there's one more property for cab, which is the two more basically, seats left and the status of that. Okay, so initially the seats left will be all the seats will be left. So yeah, so seat left will be same as the seat count as of now when the
Yeah.
cab is created. And yeah, the status, so status, um, where is it? Okay, the cab, so status will either be idle or engaged, right? So okay, so initially it will be idle, so I'll just use initial status as idle for each of the cabs. uh, Yeah, okay. So we'll have, so in the system we'll have a few sets of caps. So I'll create vector of cap as all caps in our system, and yes. So and once over here we'll just add it to the list. So caps dot just like push back this cap. Okay, so this will add a new cap to our list of all the caps. Okay, and okay, So we need to register a rider. So for riders, we'll have an ID for a rider. We don't have any name or something like that. So rider will have an ID and source and destination where
Yeah.
the rider wants to go, right? So I'll just add int source and destination, and I'll create a new rider, and rider dot ID will be this ID, and uh, just uh, source will be this source. This is getting capitalized. Do you know how to switch off this?
What?
Actually, the first alphabet is getting capitalized. Do you know how to switch off this? I forgot actually. So
Not an issue.
actually, this becomes seems like the object, which is not actually. This is this one. So I'll just name it as rider one or something. This will have a destination, and yeah, once we have all the details for the rider, we can just add that rider to the list of riders that we already have. So I'll create a new vector of rider as riders, and yeah, so over here I'll just add that this rider. Okay, so using this, we can register new riders with the ID, source, and destination, and we can register new cabs. Um, so okay, so okay, so riders can book a ride. So what information do we need while booking a ride or booking a trip? So uh, a rider wants to book a trip. So first of all, we'll need the ID for that rider. So something like rider ID, and you know what? The rider already has the source and the destination signed to them, right? So I'm assuming over here that each rider will take only one ride um, in the system, right? So each
Yeah.
of the riders only take one ride. Okay.
Whereas a
So
driver, that's not the case for drivers, riders. Yeah.
that's not okay. The caps basically, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So caps can take multiple rides. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Um, so anything else we need for booking a rider? Uh, I guess that's right. Okay, let's start creating trip. So
Hmm.
okay, so
We'll be
uh,
majorly focusing on the next two functions, that is book rider and create uh,
create right.
right. Yeah. So these two functions will be majorly working upon from now, right?
Okay, sure,
So
sure.
you can quickly sum up with the things.
Okay, sure. Uh, so for creating a ride, since a rider can either the system will either create a new ride or the system will already add the rider to an already existing trip if the destinations are same and the given you know that source is between that the first rider's source and the destination.
Yeah.
So okay. Okay, so we need a function to verify that. So okay, first of all, I'll get the rider. Uh, sorry. Uh, okay, yeah, just got it one. From the list of riders having this rider ID. Okay. Mm, okay, you know what? Instead of adding as vectors, I'll just make it an unordered map. So I can map the rider ID with the rider, so it will be easier to, you know, iterate. we won't actually need to iterate after that. So unordered map, and we'll use a string ID and then the writers. Okay. So where did we register the rider? Yeah. So instead of track, I'll just insert this ID and the rider. So now we can get the rider information from riders at you know this ID, that is rider ID. So now we have the source and the destination. Uh, okay. So okay, we have the source and the destination. So uh, okay, what else we need over here? Mhm. So basically, we all need to, go through the list of the already existing trips to check. So we need that. Okay, so I'll create, vector of um, trip. Now, to iterate through that, and this will be, there will I will create actually two vectors for ongoing trips and then for already done trips. But no, actually we already have a trip status, so we don't need that. So let's create one. So this will be called trips, and then yeah. So over here, okay. So over here we'll iterate through all the trips. So for auto trip in the trips, okay, and we'll check over here if um, if this can be a valid trip share basically. So if is something like is we need to create a new function for that. So I'll create here, I'll make this private, and this will be boolean return type and is valid share, and okay. So we need to verify if this is a valid trip share, and if this is a valid trip share, then uh, then we can just uh, update the update the trip, and then okay, yeah, and then we'll just we're done. So yes. And okay, yeah. So if we don't get a valid trip share, then we'll have to create a new ride. And yeah, this should this should work. Okay. Uh, okay. Um, okay. So now we need to actually define this function if it is a valid trip share. So we'll send this rider and we'll send this trip over here. So we'll have a rider and we'll have a trip, and we'll check over here. Okay, so the conditions were that destination should be same. So if rider destination is not same as the trip destination, I guess. Yeah, okay. So at this time, we'll just return false. Also, the seat count should be less than the total seat count. So we'll have to check that as well. So okay, so basically we'll need the seat left in the cab. Okay, this thing. Okay, so we need, first of all, we need to get the cab associated with the writer. So trip dot, can we access the cab? We have the cab. Okay, so trip cab, um, seat left. It should be greater than, sorry, if it is equal to 0, which means all the seats are full, we'll just return false. And otherwise, if the destination is same, we have seats left, we'll basically need to check if the, if the source is in between the uh, first rider's source and the final destination. So okay, so to do that, uh, okay. So, okay, there will be two cases for this. The case one will be the cab is moving to the right direction, that is to the positive x-axis. Basically, the address number, the numeric value will keep on increasing, or it's moving to the negative direction, that is from more numeric value to less numeric value in the x-axis. So to check that, if trip source is less than trip destination, it means the cab is moving to the right side. So we'll check over here. Uh, and this same should be for the rider as well. So riders, uh, no, sorry. The rider's source should be in between that. So, and the rider's source is actually greater than trip's source. Only then the rider can board that trip. So yes. So if this is the case, right?
I
Only then,
understood.
right?
Yeah. So, Rajan, I got your point. Like, if you would quickly like to sum up the entire understanding and entire approach in a few lines, we'll leave
Uh,
it here. Leave it here.
sure. So yeah, as you can see, this function will return if the rider can already board this existing, trip from
Mhm.
the list of all the trips. If there is any possibility, then we'll just update this trip. So for updating this trip again, we just need to, pass this trip and this rider one, right? We'll basically have one more, private function to update that trip, and that trip will take those things and then it will update that, right, the rider and the trip. Otherwise, if we don't find an already existing trip going on, we'll have to create a new ride, right? So for creating a new ride, I will just pass the rider, and
Got it.
yeah, so
So
we'll have
similar,
to.
you will create the right function. Understood. So yeah, we'll close the interview here. Like we are above time. So right. I hope people who are watching, they've got an understanding of what the problem was and how you were approaching it. Like we were having some people from audience also. They were giving some suggestions in between. So yeah, I
Okay.
found those suggestions quite useful, right? So overall, like throughout your interview, I was noting down some of the points that I feel would have improved it, or in general, let's say if we talk about low level design, so what all things should you keep in mind, right? So this could have made a good impression on the interviewer. So it's basically consider this low level design interview majorly as a discussion rather than you need to solve each and everything. So it's more of a discussion. If I'm impressed by your approach, right, so that plays a very very important part. So like I was noting down some of the things. So like as the question was very generic, so it's good to ask questions and be sure like we are on the same page. So it's very very important that you clarify the question well, right? So I might have something in my mind and you might start off with something totally different. So it's very very important we both are on the same page so that we can get each other and we can take this interview smoothly.
Yeah.
Apart from that, like as you already did, you assumed some of the things as per your convenience. So it's a very good point. Assume things to make things simple and communicate it to the interview. Let's say you tell it to me what is the what exactly, which functionality, which class, which object, what does they mean. So that's basically for simplicity. Speaking out loud as you were doing throughout the interview, so that's a very good point. Along with that, what I would say is, if you need some time to structure your approach, right, so that can also be taken up. Let's say sometimes we like the question is such that we are blank, we are not able to understand what could be the like how should we approach a problem. So at that time, take some time, structure your approach, and then come up with something. So that point should also be taken into consideration, because this will help us to skip some of the parts easily. We might be taking one part of the question into very depth that is not needed. I like that's something that is not there in my head. So we can avoid like the extra work that we do, right? And
Yeah.
throughout your interview, that keep taking feedback, like, right, it's not that you are just doing things, because if you'll keep taking the feedback, so this will first of all give you some hints like what the interviewer exactly wants, right? Apart from that, you will also come to understand, like you will also feel more confident, okay, yeah, I'm going on the right track. So this feedback thing in between your interview is very very important, particularly if we talk about this low level design. You could have given more examples to make things clearer, like you already gave, but yeah, that's a very good practice, taking an example of A, B, and C, so that basically clears something in a visual form. So that's also very very important, right? Also, like if there is any specific use of a design pattern or design principle that you could figure out, it's not very necessary, but yes, if you could figure out, so you should mention about that, because people might consider like you have a very good knowledge or you have practiced things beforehand. So that point can also be considered. And at the end, when I ask you to sum up things, right, so it's basically overall viewpoint of how the system would look like. So that end point or the end conclusion or summing up of things is very very important, because that leaves the last impression during your interview. So yeah,
Yeah.
this was something that I observed throughout the interview. It was a good interview, I would say. Like you performed really well. You were able to understand the problem. First of all, that's a major part. Secondly, you were able to write the classes that are there. We got some suggestions from the audience also. There were somebody who said that yeah, ride as a behavior. It could have been better if this would have been taken as an interface, right? Some more
Mm.
suggestions. I like there are other suggestions also. We'll go through them. Thank you so much everyone for participating, like people from the audience also, and interacting. So it was lovely to have a discussion with you. Anything else you want to share, Rajan? How was your experience?
Yeah. So, like my experience was great. I found the question, a little bit lengthy. A time taking exact, especially.
Mhm.
But yeah, like these questions for system designs are, they are actually intentionally unstructured and, most of the times open ended. So they don't have a standard answer to that. So that's one of the major things for system design. So we have to assume things and we have to, you know, uh, actually ask relevant questions for clarifying that question. So yeah, that was a good one.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you so much everyone for joining in. I would like to hand it over to Jay.
Thank you, everyone.
So, yeah, it was a very pretty good session by Arsh and Rajan. I can see the audience was also very interactive and they were interested a lot. So, if you guys want to attend this kind of session, there are many more upcoming sessions going to be held in this winter interview preparation. So, you can take a look at the course content of this winter interview preparation and also join the upcoming lectures. So the schedule and all the details will be given on the page. You can scroll down the entire details and work accordingly. So we'll end the session here only. Thank you, Arsh. Thank you, Rajan, uh, for giving such a good interview. And yeah, so thank you, everyone. We're ending this session here only.